Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Trade Talk. That's right, the show that mysteriously vanished from the Late Night Chat Network SoundCloud page very abruptly and without reason about a month or so ago. I think I recorded one show in the new year and then just all of a sudden stopped. I'm not sure why. I continued to read, and that's why we are here today, and I'm bringing the show back, and hopefully I can continue to bring this out regularly, week to week, like I had in the past. And if you're a listener of this show, I'm sorry I let you guys down without kind of reasoning and just kind of didn't put the shows out. But I think after the break of the new year, we were even a little off track getting back into our other shows like the Late Night Chat Show and the Weekly Wine Comic Time, and it was kind of hard just getting back into the swing of things with those two shows, so much so that between that and just, regular life busyness, I never got the chance to actually sat down. I didn't feel motivated to actually record these shows. So, which is a shame because it's something that I like doing for myself as well, get my thoughts out there on the books I read, because I read so many of them and I read a lot quickly. It kind of just helped me keep track as well of how I was feeling about the things I was reading as well. So kind of, helped me put my thoughts together. And and so again, if you were a regular listener, I'm hoping that you're going to hear this and that you're going to continue to check back with me week to week moving forward like before, and I apologize about that. No one gives myself a harder time than I do, believe me. So, and it doesn't mean that I stopped reading. I even took a vacation a week or two ago, and lots of time spent on the beach reading during that vacation. So, I am presenting to you. This is the first episode of what I am calling the late tapes. So there's going to be like about 6 or 7 of these episodes. They're going to be dropping throughout the week. So if you see a post for one of the episodes, there's going to be another one probably just right around the corner. I'm going to try to distribute them maybe daily without interfering with our other regular scheduled programming. So as you see me making posts over the next week or two, I'll be doing that until I basically go through all my backlog of things I've read, bring me back up to speed as if I were actually releasing these out weekly for you guys. So if you are listening to this, just look, there's going to be 6 or 7 several others titled whatever episode number it is, and then the late tapes, which is going to be me basically just working through this backlog of books that I've read over the past month and a half or so. Inspired by Nas's The Lost Tapes. For all you rap fans out there, I just thought of I thought it was a little bit of a clever name for for being that they weren't exactly lost, but just never recorded, but extremely late. So, all right. So without further ado, I'm sure you guys are sick of hearing me. Let's get into it. Let's get into the books. Okay. So this episode is going to be all manga. I read a few different books here that I wanted to talk about. First up, we got Golden Kamuy, Volume 13, story and art by Satoru Noda. I've talked about this book on the show before, maybe even talked about the last volume the last time I talked about manga. It's very possible. And then Volume 14 just came out. I haven't had a chance to read that yet, but it's at the top of my manga stack, that's for sure. Right after Berserk, of course, the deluxe edition, Volume 4. Really excited for that. First time reading it, guys. But this is probably my favorite ongoing manga that's out there today. If you're not really reading this, you really need to get on it. It is fantastic. It's such a mixture of different things. I've talked about it on the show here before. I heard it described by somebody somewhere on the internet, or maybe I read it, and it was just, ever since I read it, I was just like, yeah, that's a perfect way of describing this book. It was like almost like this is like the Quentin Tarantino, like the Pulp Fiction of manga, like just because there's all these weird characters in it. At least that's the way I kind of interpreted it. Just because it's hardcore, like the violence is crazy, like the fight scene's awesome. There's funny characters, there's wacky characters, there's like really strange, deranged, like fucked up people in it. It just I don't know, just the Quentin Tarantino of comics, like of mangas. I was just like, yes, I'm like, that is kind of how it is, just because it can get goofy and it can get violent, and meanwhile, just like the pacing and like the cast of characters are in it, kind of remind me of that. And even if people don't see the connection there between the two, it just sounded like a really cool thing to say about this. And I love Quentin Tarantino movies, so when I read that, I was like, heard that, I was like, oh, that's really interesting, actually. But with that being said, this is continuing the story of them tracking down skins, trying to find that treasure that Ainu, I guess it's called Ainu, Ainu, I think that's how it's pronounced, Ainu gold that they've been searching for this whole time. I just quickly wanted to mention this again because it's still fucking good. I mean, I don't really got too much more else to say other than that. In this volume in particular, the last time we left our group of heroes here, they basically, well, I mean, they're not all heroes, but our group of characters that we've been following in this, they were all buck naked in the water, basically, and they had to get themselves out of that situation while being attacked at the start of this volume. And so Sugimoto has got to basically make his way out of that situation with a bunch of his buddies there as they're getting fired at, all butt naked in the water because they all got kind of wacky off of some I think it's something that they ate. I don't know. It's almost like they were drugged last issue by something that made them act very odd and sexual towards each other. And all of a sudden, like, they were just like they were like, hey, let's get naked and start like bathing in the water or like playing in this fucking lake or whatever. So then like they were just in this awkward situation at the start of this one, and basically the Ainu girl, I'm blanking on her name right now, but the one that's part of their group that's been with Sugimoto from the start, they basically are going to the prison now where her father, I guess, was imprisoned, and it's been hard for them not only to get into there, because I think that's where some of the skins are as well, because they're expecting them, like the bad guys that they've been kind of fighting against now have expected that their arrival over there, so they're basically everything's kind of coming to a head, and it's hard to kind of break into a fucking prison for them to see this girl's father. And not only that, she like hasn't seen him forever, and she like suspects, like, because they've heard like he could be like a bad guy, like that's why he's there for things that he's done, and she's nervous about seeing him. And Sugimoto's like, don't worry, like I'll be with you when we go to see him. Aserpa, that's her name. Thank you. I'm just looking at the and they went to Abashiri prison. Yeah, so they've from the lake. Yeah, see, there's some good information on the back of these books. Sometimes it sums it up a little bit better than I. And here's the thing: some of these books I'll be talking about are going a few weeks back, so I'm going to do my best to let you guys know, give you a brief summary of what's going on with them. But again, I've talked about this book a lot, even on this show. I just quickly wanted to mention the fact that it's still fantastic, and I decided it is, because a lot of the things I'm reading manga are just being reprinted in different formats or older series that have already completed. There's not many current series I'm reading, maybe a handful, ongoing ones that are still coming out now that I've dropped a lot of my like the shonen kind of jump mangas that I read. But Golden Kamuy is honestly my favorite ongoing right now, I gotta say. All right, next up we got Junji Ito's No Longer Human. This is the newest release, or I guess that was translated to English, brought out by Viz. Huge fan of Junji Ito. I don't know if I've ever talked about him on the show, because I know I picked up a lot of the new releases, like these hardcovers that Viz was releasing when they were translating his stuff. I read a bunch of them at the same time, like one after another. I just consumed them. So I don't know if I talked about any of them on this show during the period of time I've been doing this. I may have, and if not, I just want to say I'm a huge fan of his. I love everything he's done, basically, to some degree. But I will say, in reading this, where this is actually, I think it was based on a book. I think originally it was a book that somebody wrote, this No Longer Human, and then somebody else did a manga prior to this one, and then now this is Junji Ito, I guess, doing his kind of take on it. And from what I've been told, it sticks to a lot of the actual material, like in the original novel or maybe manga adaptation, but then he takes some liberties, I guess, towards the end, at least the way he explained it. And this was told to me by someone who's also read the book. It's like one of their favorite books. But I gotta say, this is the darkest fucking thing I think Junji Ito has done. The material, like the person in this, and it's kind of at least my interpretation of it, is the reason why, like, it's called No Longer Human. It's just it's about this reprehensible human fucking being, if you want to call him that. He's just like pure fucking evil. He's just a horrible person. But he's like cold. Like, he just separates himself, like, until to the point where, like, yeah, like, to me it was just like, okay, this guy is no longer human. Like, how can you relate to this person on any level? Like, he just, time after time, he dooms the people in and around, like, around him, like, anybody who gets involved with him, like any of the women that he meets. Like, at first he, like, plays it up as, like, he's like the sad, tragic clown, like, trying to find a way to fit in because he's just, like, socially awkward or just doesn't relate and isn't able to act normal, like a normal fucking human being. But then, I guess this kid is, like, mentally challenged a bit, you could say. He like sees through his charade, and, like, of all people, like, this is when he's younger now. It kind of chronicles this guy's life, and then he kind of sees through the fact that he was acting stupid to entertain people, like acting kind of like an idiot, so people would like him, like, kind of using people, you know what I mean, like, trying to lie about himself, or, like, put on a show to act like he's, like, some sort of, like, village idiot, like, gesturing for them, and, like, you know what I mean, falling over himself, like, you know, just doing shit so people could relate to him, or you can find a connection between himself and other people, because he's not making it. He doesn't know how to interact with the human race, it seems like. And then ever since then, the kid, like, he sees through his charade, and then, like, it haunts him. And then, you know, I don't want to spoil too much about it, but as time goes on, you know, he finds a tragic fate, and, like, he ends up, I mean, that kid I was talking about that saw through his lies. And then as time goes on, like, women, like, fall for him because he's, you know, a good looking dude, and it seems like he's kind of got his shit worked out, but meanwhile he's a very troubled, you know, individual. And as the book goes on, like, women just throw themselves at him. They end up, like, falling in love with him, like, sleeping with him, and it's mostly about sex. But then, you know, he goes for it, and he you know, he gets into these relationships with all these women throughout the book, and again, and horrible, like, fate, like, follows them. And there's a lot of people that you know, either something, you know, they end up killing themselves, or that's how the book actually opens up. It's with him and another girl that are about to commit suicide, and of course, you know, the suicide isn't successful for him. It only turns out to be successful for the other girl. So, like, anyways, and then you kind of go on, and it chronicles this guy's kind of trajectory through his life. And even the way they ended this story was just very tragic. And again, I won't give away the ending completely, just because it actually ties into, I think that's where he took some liberties and changed the ending a little bit, as from what I was told, to kind of connect it to the original novel, or maybe even the manga adaptation that came prior to that, which I've never read. I don't really know too much about this, but this is a big book. It's like a few hundred pages, this one. Again, it's in that Viz Media, like, it's like 600, over 600 pages, 615 pages here. So it took a while to get through, but this was the first Junji Ito book, I gotta say, like, a quarter of the way through, I was like, I don't know. I'm like, I'm not really connecting to this. I don't know if I'm loving it. Like, yeah, it's fucked up and weird, and I can't explain a lot of the things that are going on, and I definitely don't like this guy that I'm reading about, and it's hard sometimes to read something where there's no fucking good person to root for in the book, you know what I mean? So, I didn't know if I was gonna continue, like, I was like, okay, I'm gonna get through it, right? I was like, but could this be the first Junji Ito work I don't like? And and it's, you know, not his. It's based off. He adapted it from somebody else, right? This is the original novel is by Osamu Dazai. Dazai on the cover here. So I'm like, okay, well, that's not really his fault. Anyways, but by the end of it, I was like, whoa. I'm like, it was dark. It was fucked up. It was interesting. It kept me going, man. And like by the end of it, I was like, wow, that was like an experience. And just like more and more I've thought about it. Even some of the things I don't want to talk about here because I don't want to spoil it for you guys. It was kind of stuck with me. It was haunting even. So yeah, this is definitely the darkest. But you know, I would suggest like, I mean, it's not for everybody. Like even me, like I said, about a quarter of the way through, I wasn't sure if I was really loving it. But then I kind of, you know, by the time I got about, you know, maybe another quarter into the book, about a little bit way over halfway of the book, there's a certain point it got to where it was just like I flew through it after that. I was like, wow, that really picked up. It got way more interesting. So yeah, it really stuck the landing for me by the end. So yeah, another successful title from him as far as I'm concerned. So check it out, Junji Ito, No Longer Human. Not for the faint of heart, though, or people that hate to read about other horrible fucking people. And you might even find something in there that you can relate to, which is even going to be more fucked up for you from this reading experience. All right, and then lastly, Witch Hat Atelier. This is, I read all 4 volumes that are currently out. The 5th volume, at least in English, the 5th volume will be, I guess, coming out in the next month or so. This is published by Kodansha Comics. And this is written, drawn by Kamuy Shirahama. So this book is, at least even, you may even notice from a lot of the mangas that I've talked about here on the show, are usually more mature. If not like darker titles, just like, you know, violent or mature takes, or like, you know, like anything from like samurais or fighting, or like fucking, you know, people killing each other, and like Junji, weird body horror type stuff or whatever, right? And that's a lot of the content, I guess, of some of the mangas that I've been reading lately, or like, you know, but this is definitely more in a way more adventurous. Now, it is about a school about witches. It's about a little girl who was just a normal human who always wanted to be a witch, and then is given the chance to through some events where somebody gave her something when she was, like, I guess out, like a vendor gave her something that turned out to be something that she was actually able to use to cast magic. And in this world, these witches, they're able to cast magic and do spells by drawing. So you got to draw different patterns, and you have to draw the lines, you know, neat for the spell to be successful. Like if you draw it messy, it can be like, you know, a more crazy chaotic spell. Or if you break the actual loop of the drawing, like you can't have like some lines broken anywhere, the spell's not going to work correctly. And there's all these like little stipulations about like the work that you have to put into drawing these things, and to bring a spell to life, you have to draw it. And like you could put like directional arrows, and then depending on how you do it, it like can reverse a spell or do the opposite effects. So as you get into it, they kind of break down everything, and the world building in this manga is just fucking fantastic. Like when I heard about this, I was like, it said like fans of Miyazaki would be really into this. I heard another podcast where they really praised it, and I absolutely get the Miyazaki reference. Like if you watch any of those films, like all the fantastical world building kind of elements definitely are in this. You know, I would also say that maybe fans of, like, obviously the easy thing to bring up is like fans of Harry Potter would be into this. Yes, this is the magical world, but unlike Harry Potter, it is just very different in the way that they are casting the magic, and even the way the world works, and the characters, and just like the way that they explain like all the different positions you can have as a witch as you go through your education through this atelier. Like I guess that's like the little witch kind of like house, like town hut kind of thing that they all hang out in. And he has apprentices, like, so there's the girl that's the human that gets the chance to become a witch, and and be taught by this other wizard as his apprentice. He has 3 other girl apprentices that live with him as well. And what happened is this girl accidentally casts this magic spell that backfires because she doesn't know what the hell she's doing. This is the human, and in prison, it basically her mom gets imprisoned in like ice, like essentially like, or to like this, like I think it's ice. She basically gets imprisoned like in like a stone like kind of substance where she's like a statue, but I think it's ice in particular. Yeah, she freezes. I'm just looking at it right now. So she gets stuck in some sort of like stone as like a ice statue, and so he says he agrees to bring her along and give her the opportunity to learn magic and maybe find a way to help her mother as a result of this backfiring. And it turns out whoever gave her this thing in the town may have been messing with like dark magic essentially. So like they have enemies, these witches. I think they're called the brim hats, like hats with brims. Like they're basically like these other witches who, again, they're working outside of it's basically like the bad guys in like the Harry Potter movies. Like they're witches. They also know sorcery, but they're not the same. They don't believe in the same things that these guys believe in. And you know what I mean? Like they have like all these ancient spells that are forbidden that they end up using. So, like anything, like these type of things, there's rules to this society, and these are the people that are outside of them, and they don't agree with them, and they basically, start shit with the witches all the time. Like, but not much is known about them, and they've been operating in secrecy, and they're using this little girl as a way to kind of get closer to the witches, you find out as the story goes on. So I don't want to spoil too much about it, but I will say that the world building is top notch, and I haven't even gotten into the art yet. The art is beautiful. It is very well drawn, very detailed, well rendered. The inking is top notch. It's clean, but at the same time very detailed, and it's just. There's a lot of lines. There's a lot of ink going into this. Like, I can't imagine the time that she takes drawing this. Like, it is amazing. And I think that they're a few volumes ahead in Japan, like they normally are compared to our English releases. But I flew through these 4 volumes. I was on vacation when I read these, and I flew through them. I loved every minute of it. It's such a fantastical world, great world building, great art, great lightheartedness too. Like, but also like there is stakes. Like, you know what I mean? Like there is bad guys in this, and my favorite part about it is how they break everything down for you. Like, again, in the world building, they will explain everything to you about the way they put the spells together, the way that the tests that the witches have to take, like the different positions, and how humans interact with them, and how humans, what they expect of them, like as witches. And it's just I don't know. I haven't read anything. Like, I'm not huge into fantasy, and I'm not even a huge Harry Potter fan. And if this sounds like anything like those things, I still think it's a little bit different. Like, I've seen the films, I've read a few of the books, but I just love this. I can't explain it further than that. I think check it out. Witch Hat Atelier, 4 volumes out, and the 5th volume coming soon. And it's from Kodansha Comics. Fantastic book. And it's again. I'm glad I was late to the party on this one, but I'm glad I'm now reading it. And I'm looking forward to the next volume. All right, everybody, so that will do it for this episode of recent manga that I've read. Look for episode 2 of the late tapes of Trade Talk, which is going to be officially episode 26. That should be in the feed somewhere on the SoundCloud page or in the playlist or Trade Talk. Sometime after this episode, probably within the next day or 2 after this is posted. Like I said, I'm going to try to stagger the releases. But like I said, there's going to be 6 or 7 of these late tape ones coming out in the next week or 2. So look forward to that as I continue to get through my stack of backlog books that I've read over the past month and a half. And if you have yet to check it out, and you don't mind talking about the weekly new comic releases, make sure to check out Weekly Wine Comic Time that I do with my girlfriend, Christine. Sometimes we have some drinks, we talk about some comics. That is more for the new weekly release single issues. that come out that we discuss. We don't talk about collected editions there. But even if you don't read single issues, you don't mind a spoiler here or there, and you just want to kind of check in and hear how some series are sounding. Maybe you'd like to pick up the trade when it comes up. You want to know what we think of it, then check it out. And of course, Late Night Chat with JT and Niko, our main show there that basically started this whole network. That is another show you can also check out. And the backlog of all these Trade Talk shows, if you've ever had a chance to go through there, look in the show notes. I explain every book I talk about and review on each one. So lots of stuff for you guys to check out, and there's more on the way. And thank you for anybody that's coming back again after my brief hiatus on this show or checking in for the first time. All right, later, guys.